Alright, so today I'm going to go through the basics of just gap scheme run plays. Alright, so our last video was zone scheme, now we're talking gap scheme. Alright, so what can I tell you about gap scheme? Alright, everything is going to be down and then wrap. Essentially, is just about every gap scheme run play you can think of. Is you're going to have somebody pulling and kicking, alright, and you're going to have the rest of the line washing down. Alright, so I always talk about gap scheme looks like this. I'm creating a wall backside like this, alright, and all my pressure is going there. Alright, and I'm pulling front side with the backside guy. And we are inserting off the back of those arrows as they go down. Right, so that's the best way I can describe a gap scheme run play. We're down blocking, forward pressure with the front side. Okay, so this power right, the center, right guard, right tackle is all pushing everything to the left. Okay, the backside guard is inserting and back. So we're trying to create a wall, front side, and we're trying to pull through that wall, backside. All right, so that would be like power. All right, so basic run plays we can run out of this. Power and counter. Now obviously there's a million different variations of those two things. Alright, but that's the two things that I really specifically put in gap scheme as far as, some people try to call buck sweep gap scheme. I think the buck sweep is his own thing. It's got variations of pin and pull with some ideas from gap scheme, but I believe buck sweep is really its own thing. Alright, so let's just talk through power real quick. Okay, and nothing's going to be different on either one of these plays, except for the guard and then whoever our sniffer is or anything. You could use a tailback in power and counter. You could use a quarterback. Just there's a million different things you can do. But right here we're doing it at an H-back. We call this 11 personnel. Okay, we got one tight end, which we'll call the H-back a tight end, and then one tailback. Some people will call this 20 personnel. I call it 11 personnel. All right. So, if you're running traditional power, and you have to have a kicker and you have to have a wrapper. We normally put the H-back already on the play side of this, okay, on power. Alright, so let's just draw this up. And we'll just draw up an overfront. An overfront is they are setting the strength. The three technique is to the fullback. Alright, the three technique is to the fullback. We'll call that an overfront in a basic 4-down look. Alright, so let's talk through this. This is a perfect opportunity to run a gap scheme run play or power or anything, because if you always just check the box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so now we've got a good box to run this to. We ain't got to RPO it. We ain't got to do anything else. We can line up and we can run power here. Alright, so this is a great look. Alright, so let's talk through our rules here. Alright, so we're going to go power. And remember, I said we go ahead and put the H-back to the play side. So this would be power left. Alright, now you can motion him and do all that stuff pre-snap to try to create better disguise for it. But when you can line up and you can just say, hey, we're going to run power and you're not going to stop it, that's a good feeling to be. You're probably going to win that game. Alright, so H-back. Alright, I always tell him to step down the displaced crack of the tackle. Alright, so on the snap right here, the tackle's going down. Alright, so I always tell this H-back, step and replace that tackle's left butt cheek. Alright, right down the middle of his crack. And then, as he leaves, whatever is sitting there, alright, whether that guy squeezes, whatever is sitting there, you get to the inside number of that and you force it out. Alright, and you're trying to push everything out. Okay, so this would be power left. Alright, so he's going, stepping to the crack, and he's replacing whatever that tackle leaves whenever he goes on this track. Alright, so let's talk about this left tackle here. Alright, that's the left tackle. We're going to tell him that his rules are backside, or his rules right here are B gap to number 2. Alright, left tackle, B gap to number 2. Alright, and so the first thing we need to do is we need to ID this box with the center. And I'm moving too fast, so we got to figure that out. Alright, so we got to ID this box with this center so we know who we're pulling for. Alright, So we want to pull for the furthest linebacker in the box to the play side. All right, so the play side is to the left. I got 2 linebackers in the box. The guy that's furthest to the left would be here. Okay, so that would be our Mike. Now, if you had 17 linebackers in this box, for some stupid reason, which is impossible, I know. All right, this would be the guy we're pulling for. Everybody else is working the other way. All right, now that wouldn't be optimal, obviously, but you just know how, that's my point. So if you had 17 linebackers in the box right here, we are always pulling for the first guy in the box. Now, it's a game plan thing each week to say, all right, do we need to pull out here for this safety that's fitting tight? Maybe so. Get with your coordinator, say, hey, let's throw an RPO here or something like that. In the playoff game this past season for us, in the second round, we had really good success off of power RPOs because they were fitting really hard. All right, so that's just something you got to look to. But let's just keep it basic here. All right, so we're going to identify who we're pulling for with the center. The center's going to mic this guy. I don't care who mics him. All right, we obviously want the center to do it, but if the center for some reason didn't call it, all right, we're micing number 1. Okay? All right, so that's the guy that we're pulling for. So this guard is done. Okay? He's pulling and wrapping. All right, we use a skip pull. All right, but we really just whatever keeps his shoulder square, working through the line and getting upfield. All right, so we're going to tell this tackle right here, he's got B gap to number 2. That's his track. That's not his man, that's his track. All right, does that make sense? You have to understand, that's not his man, that's his track. All right, and that's what I always talk about on this. He is on a railroad track. Boom. All right, that's his track. All right, on his track, is there anybody there? Yes, there's a 3 technique there. All right, so we are going to down block the crap out of that 3 technique. All right, because on his track to B gap to number 2, that guy was there. Okay, and it doesn't matter. I always tell these guys, if you're on a train track and you put your arm out there, what's going to happen? The train's going to hit your arm. All right, so whatever is in that track, that's where you're going. All right, just to keep it simple. All right, now there's 2 ways to look at this. Okay, if your tackle can down block the fool out of this 3 technique with no problems, okay, don't even worry about double. Don't worry about a double team there. All right, but you can work a time step vertical, all right, and I call it a time step down, where this guy's going to be there, and that tackle's going to slam that really hard to create leverage to get to this linebacker. All right, so there's 2 things that dictate this. All right, we're going to talk about it right now. Whether or not we're going to have a front side double team here. Do we need help on this 3 technique? If we need help on this 3 technique, automatically we're getting 4 hands on this guy. All right, and we're putting 600 pounds on 200 pounds. All right, that's a given. If we can't block the 3 technique on our own, because you cannot have front side penetration on gap scheme run play. If you have front side penetration on gap scheme run plays, it causes our pull to go out wider, and it plays into exactly what the defense wants to do, is to box this thing and spill it. Okay, and we don't want that to happen. We want to keep everything tight. All right, so let's just say in a perfect world, he can down block that guy easy. All right, so now we tell this guy right here, his track, not his man, his track is A gap to number 2. A gap to number 2. All right, so he checks A gap. All right, that's his track. Is anybody there? No, now he's working up to there. All right, so now let's go back. What is the other thing that will dictate whether or not we use a double team on this? Look at number 2's leverage. All right, so we gotta look at number 2's leverage, the linebacker right here. Okay, so we know we're pulling for number 1. All right, let's say he's right there for some crazy reason. Now, I want you to imagine this in your mind. If this guy goes to down block that guy really, really hard, all right, what's going to happen? This guy's going to get pushed that way to this left guard. Okay, and what's going to happen is it's going to create his angle like that. Okay, when his angle's like that, based on the leverage of this linebacker, he's never going to get there. All right, that linebacker's going to be flying over the top, and now his angle's going to be pushed off because there's going to be some type of pressure from that 3 technique getting down blocked into it. All right, so if that linebacker's leverage is there, which would push him into me and cause my track to be screwed up, all right, we're just going to go ahead and double team this thing. All right, now we'll get hip to hip. All right, and what could potentially happen here is this guy could end up driving this guy over and the left guard take it over. Now he's coming off, which would be great. All right, or just like normal, he down blocks, he gets a hand there, and now this guy fits in here, and now we're good. But what you don't want to happen is, and just like I just said, is this guy's doing his job, he's down blocking, but we get some type of push, all right, horizontal, and it knocks me off to where now I'm working at that track, and that's not my track. My track is A gap to number 2. All right, so now this guy's flying free, and that's not good. All right, so now I'm pulling for this guy, and then this guy's running free. All right, so we base our double team off of 2 things. Leverage of the linebacker that we're working to, number 2. All right, the number 2 linebacker. All right, and then, hey, can we handle this 3 technique on our own? If you can handle the 3 technique on your own, and this guy's pushed way over here, it doesn't matter if he knocks me off my track, I can still get there. All right, we're fine. All right, just run the play. All right, and then the backside tackle, always on power or counter, has got gap hinge. Now, that's a kicker now. Don't think that's just a simple thing, which I ain't even talked about the center yet. We'll get to that in a second. All right, the right tackle is gap hinge. He's stepping to B gap, eyes up to B gap, shoulders square, 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 and then he's opening up, and his job is to run that guy by. Okay? His job is to run that guy by. So I should be here, boom, boom, get an eye on the B gap thread, get a hand on the B gap thread if he's there. All right, ride him down and then open up, take your inside hand, force it on the inside shoulder of that defensive end, whoever's there. Now, center has got backside A gap to backside B gap. All right, A gap always trumps B gap. Okay, so he looks here. Is there anybody in A gap? Yes, down block. Okay, now I'll tell them to take their nose and stick it in their near jugular vein with a strong hand backside. All right, so nose to near jugular. All right, my hat's under his hat if I got my nose in his jugular. All right, and then this backside hand's got to be strong to prevent the spin out. Okay, this right here, okay, is this gap hinge right here is probably the least dominating block in the world, but you can make it dominating. But your job is to really just keep that guy out of there. All right, now let's talk about this against the underfront here. All right, so underfront, they set the shade to the run strength here. Okay? They set the shade to the run strength here. All right, so let's look through our rules. We still have power left. H back doesn't change. B back, H back, super back, whatever you want to call him. I don't care. All right, so he's there. Boom, done. All right, we told the tackle his rules are B gap to number 2. All right, so let's identify. We're pulling for the mic. He's number 1 in the box. We're all working to the first guy behind the mic, which is number 2. All right, so I got B gap to number 2. Check B gap. Is there anybody there? Go to number 2. Boom, done. All right, guard. A gap to number 2. Is there anybody in A gap? Yes, done. Down block. All right, so we call this a shoot block here. All right, we call this a shoot block. Some people call it a back block. This is one of the hardest blocks for a center. All right, if he doesn't know how to do it. All right, so understand. If this guy's really, really penetrating, which we call those guys penetrators, all right, sometimes you got to step flat and open up and just run that guy by. Okay, but I've seen years, and you've seen it too, to where you could really, really struggle to get where you're supposed to be. All right, so in that situation, which I've done before, we'll tell this guy to stay. He'll outblock that guy, and then we'll pull the center. All right, but we don't have to get in that world. Okay, but here we go. So this guy's got a shoot block because the center's rules are backside A to B. Is there anybody in A gap? No. All right, so now I got to replace. All right, and that's something I need to emphasize. He is taking the guy that this guy is leaving. He is taking the guy that he is taking this vacant space that he's leaving in B gap and A gap because he's pulling. He's taking that space. All right, he's always got to replace that. All right, unless we get like an Okie front where you just got to head up 0 and then we'll double, which we don't have to get into that world right now. All right, so he's shooting back. Now, one key point on this. I want this tackle on his gap hinge to get his inside hand to the outside shoulder of that guy and feel. All right, and push, 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 and wait for that center to come back. When he feels that center come back, then he opens up. Now he's taking his backside hand and he's running that guy by. All right, and we need to talk about this. I don't tell these guards to find an aiming point on these linebackers. All right, I want that guy to go right down the middle of him and take him where he wants to go and let your tailback make you right. All right, but what happens oftentimes, we go in there and, oh, I'm trying to get my aiming point right there, and then I'm too fixated on that instead of just going and killing the guy. All right, and early in my career, I was trying to fit up these linebackers, like trying to get up to them, man. We're trying to be slow to them. And it was actually here at Theodore, old offensive line coach said, hey, look, man, you go over there and you dominate those linebackers. You take them wherever the heck they want to go, and you try to body slam them, and our tailback will make you rock. And you don't want to ever have your guys playing slow. And I always say this: you want to be technically aggressive, but you also want to be aggressively technical. All right, so it's got to be both of those things. You can't be too technical and not be aggressive, and you can't be aggressive and have no technique. So that's something I feel like I coined that phrase. You got to be aggressively technical, but you also got to be technically aggressive. All right, so gap hinge there. All right, we're pulling for number 1 on the skip pull. Now, this does want to be tight. Okay, so I want to go off the last down block. All right, so the last down block right here would be the left guard. No, the last down block would be the left tackle. All right, but it's probably going to end up right in here. All right, so we want to replace those guys, and you always want to strike a match on their butt as you're running into the line of scrimmage. All right, so everybody's accounted for, everybody's taken care of. All right, so that's power against just an over and under front, which I know, hey, you're going to draw it up against great fronts to run it against. All right, but this is what you see a lot of. Okay, so that's power. Counter, the only thing changes for counter is a lot of time we're going to set the H-back away from it, and now your H-back is your insert guy. He's going for number 1. And now your guard is pulling, and we call that a check pull or an insert pull or a trap pull. He's pulling to kick the inside number of the inbound line of scrimmage. Let's draw that up real quick, and then we'll be done. All right, so we'll go counter left here. All right, H-back's normally on the backside because he's pulling across the line of scrimmage. We call that split flow. All right, so we'll draw this here. All right, we got an over front. All right, are we good? All right, let's rock and roll. Nothing changes. Only people's rules that change right here are going to be the guard that's pulling and the H-back. And their rules don't really change. All right, their pass and their tracks change, okay? And their techniques change. All right, but we still got a rapper, we still got a puller. Every gap scheme run play. All right, so we're going counter, left. Now, guys, there's a million variations of counter. All right, but right now we're talking GH counter. GH meaning guard and the H-back are the puller and the rapper. Okay? No, the kicker and the rapper, I should say. All right, so this guy right here, the right guard, he is pulling, opening the refrigerator door. He's pulling into the line of scrimmage. All right? He is trying to take his left ear and put it on their left butt cheek. All right? He's trying to take his left ear and put it on their left butt cheek right there. All right? And if I pull left, I hit left. All right, and I always tell these guys, and they never forget it. Do I want to put my cheek on his ding-ding side? All right, do I want to put my cheek on his hip side? And they always say this: I don't ever want no ding-ding in my face. All right, so if I go and I pull here, all right, and I put my face in the middle of his ding-ding, he can always fight inside. If I keep my face on his hip, all right, and hit there, and put my left ear on his left hip, we can get him out of there. Now we go and we hit him, and we lift him, and we drive him through the line of scrimmage. All right, the rules for everybody else stays the same, other than the H-back. The H-back is doing what the guard was doing on power. Okay, he is pulling for number 1, who is the Mike. Okay, now left tackle, B gap to number 2. Is there anybody in B gap? No, so go to number 2. All right, now left guard. Is there anybody A gap to number 2? Is there anybody in A gap? Yes, down block, near nose to near jugular, backside hand strong. Run your feet. Boom, boom, boom. Step. Cut off the inside penetration. All right. Do not allow any inside penetration. Do not allow the backside flow penetration. All right. To where he's trying to shoot back. I got a shoot block from my center. Back to the 3 technique. All right. Force everything backside. And let's remind us of something here. Now, we've created a wall backside. There's my wall. There's my wall. There's my wall. There's my wall. And now we've got pullers front side, just like we started the video with. Now he's coming up in here, he's going to take a jab step, and he's going to hit it right up underneath there. All right, and always tell your doggone tailbacks, stop bouncing gap scheme run plays. We want this to hit tight. We work our butts off to try to hit this thing tight. Every time they bounce it, all right, so just imagine this tailback comes over here and bounces it. We're over here kicking this guy here, okay, and we're blocking him that way, just like I talked about in my inside zone video. Now he's making the tackle. All right, so I had a coach tell me a long time ago, you're on your own. You're on your own if you bounce gap scheme run plays. All right, any other play, you got a little bit of flexibility. You bounce a gap scheme run play, you're going to be in trouble. Now, sometimes guys just make it happen, but that's just the basics of this. Now, there's a million different things, like there's a million different counter variations. You can run GT counter, GH counter. You can run daggum counter with the running back. You can run counter with a doggone receiver coming in and inserting. There's a million different ways of doing it, a ton of different variations. If you ever want to ask me about that, you can. But as long as you have somebody kicking and somebody inserting, regardless of who that guy is, you can call GK counter, guard kicker counter. You got the doggone kicker in there. All right, and he's running counter. It doesn't matter, okay? The rules stay the same. It's not as complicated as we make it to be sometimes. All right, so simple rules. That's basic. Guys, there's one thing, and it's always a question somebody asks, well, what if they got 3 linebackers in the box? We talk about tracks, man. Everybody's track stays the same. All right, so we go B gap to number 2. Everybody go A gap to number 2. All right, and what happens there is, as I stay on that track, I naturally will end up picking up number 3 if he's in the box. That's just the way it works out, okay? All right, so great video. I appreciate you guys, and have a good day.